So welcome to those who have joined us. If you were not at the opening and have not met John McGiff, he is here with us tonight to speak about his work. And I will introduce him by saying, take it away, John. If you want to share a little bit about your most recent years and your move to the Hudson Valley, and how you are now working on the three different series we have represented in this show. Please take it away.
Great. Thanks, June. I appreciate it. And I think without further ado, I will just share the screen and have us start looking at images. Could I get a hand up if you all have an image in front of you? I just want to make sure everybody, great. Okay, thanks, Louise. Appreciate it. I just want to thank the Lake George Arts Project for giving me the opportunity to bring work from really spanning 20 years into the same space, so I could really share it with people and also see it myself in a way that I'm not able to here in the studio. The opening was great, and I learned a lot about myself and about the work just from the comments of folks who were at the opening. So it's been a great experience, and I really love the fact that I have the platform continuing here. I'm gonna start right now and just work through a more or less chronological look at work that started essentially 22 years ago. And some of the work is not actually in the show, but I thought that the pieces that I have digitally, but that are not in the show, would work as good transitions from one body of work to the next. And as June said, roughly 3 bodies of work, 3 series are represented in the show that's currently on exhibit. So the name of the exhibit is Painting as Vision, and I mean that in a number of different ways. Really, vision is our way of being connected to the world outside ourselves. I think it's our primary sensory kind of extension as we're children, infants. But it's also the act of imagination in understanding sort of who we are, what our world is like, and how we fit into it. So this particular painting right here, I painted, as you can see, 24 years ago. I had just moved, we had just moved, my wife and I, and 2 children had just moved from Philadelphia, where I had been in graduate school and was working at as an adjunct at a couple of schools. And I got a job at a private boarding school of 300 kids in the middle of Delaware. And it was a transition from, being a freewheeling post-grad student learning the rhythms of teaching, to all of a sudden being responsible for a department, a father of 2 children, and really the transition between young man and being a father and an adult was hitting me in the head like a ton of bricks. So I needed to see where I was. I needed to envision what it felt like to be me at this point. And so this is the first image I came up with. And, I obviously a Pinocchio figure here that's tethered to something that's quite uh, vulnerable, the clouds. So I felt unsettled. And making this painting, I remember making this painting the second year, I just felt so relieved to know where I was and how I felt. So this act of painting as vision is really an act of connecting to the outside world as well as an imaginative self-reflection, which um, tethers oneself to the interior world um, that probably changes more than the outside world. So I did a number of paintings that I ended up entitling Existential Vaudeville, which were really about the growth of our family and the recognition of the dichotomy of that responsibility, which was hilarious. Children are hilarious, and yet they need a lot of attention. And finding a way to do that with one's spouse is a dance for sure. So I sort of envision us as like the every family. That's why there's a city down below. The mother is here. She's got her hands on everybody. She is the uniting force. She has an aureole of flowers around her head, sort of my homage to the power of women and mother. And here's dad reaching for the bottle, the cross, money, Lord knows, whatever's there. So there's a level of humor to these paintings, which relieved me and gave me some breath. But there's also the sense of the existential crisis of change. It's another one. This is dad trying to get ready for work with the world spinning around him. And one thing I realized once we had children was how much crap you accumulate in the house. McDonald meals, birthday presents from fathers and grandparents and aunts and uncles, the Christmases and the Easters and the all of our various holidays, being a commercial culture, all come with stuff. And so I found us surrounded by stuff. And so I put that in these paintings because it was part of the character of our life and part of the humor and kind of the horror of the life. Um, this one is called Behold King Size Pops. Sort of dad coming home from work. We can see down here, there's underneath the outstretched figure of Elizabeth is Bud Lightyear. Is that his name? I think so. Anyway, um, and he's trying to get out of the way because chaos is ensuing.
No, Buzz Lightyear.
Bud Lightyear, right? Buzz, not Bud. Sorry. I guess it's. I haven't yet had cocktail hour, so I'm thinking about Bud. And a lot of this iconography happened after a trip to Italy and to Venice, and seeing the incredible Venetian painters and Veronese and Tintoretto and Titian often had these flying angels through the air. And I just felt like that's kind of what we were. We were suspended in air. Time was this thing that was impossible to understand. And there was all of this stuff happening. So anyway, these were my initial reflections on family life and becoming an adult. But I found that, and you will see, hopefully, as we go through these paintings, that the same theme of not having sure ground under your feet, of being constantly in transition and doubt is an experience that I have all the time, and that I think is common to the human race. But I, in this regard, will speak for myself.
I love the Baroque feeling of that swirling composition. I see how it was Venetianly influenced.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, and then at the same time that I was doing the existential vaudeville paintings, I probably did about 10 of them, and I felt better because I knew where I was, and I wouldn't have if I hadn't made those paintings. So again, painting as an act of self-visualization. Um, I was also reaching out to things that were around us. We moved to Delaware, and there were still a lot of single-family farms in the area. A lot of them were Polish potato farmers from Long Island who had fled in the 1950s and 60s from all the suburbanization of Long Island after World War II. And I was just in, infatuated with these places that were both workplaces and domestic homes, and the way in which they kind of like worked together. But I was also really interested in this patina of the character of time and animal and human activity. The bird poop, the cow poop, the rusting metal, the wood that needed to be painted. And yet the fact that these places were all very functional, and, you know, they were farms that were families were making a living from, and the design of each of the places was so different. This was a place just down the road from where I taught, and you know, this old green rusted, you know, gas tank, and then the tanks here. Um, the whole thing just struck me as so beautiful. I was from the city, but I just loved this this rural landscape, and this remarkable combination of domesticity and industry. So I
This
did a
kind of
lot of them. I
excuse
did
me.
maybe 50 of these paintings. I would walk down the road. I would knock on the door, ask the farmer or the farmer's wife if I could set up an easel, and they basically said, "Can I come and paint your house?" And they were like, "Yeah, there's a ladder up against the house. If you could just like keep painting the cedar shakes, that would be great." So they were funny. They were funny, um, but I loved it. That saved my life, to have that counter dimension as an academic, to be able to go out and hang out with the farmers and paint their spaces really was a gift. Somebody had a question.
Yes, I just wanted to know, is this when you started working in gouache? Is this gouache?
No, these are all oil paintings. Yep, these are all oil, and the paintings that you'll see later are gouache. Oil is great because it takes a while to dry. And when you're out on site, you know, I'm standing in this yard, I'm being buzzed by flies, mosquitoes. The wind is, you know, is raking up, the dirt's flying around, the leaves flying around. And it's great to have oil paint because it takes a long time to dry and you can really work through it. Gouache dries almost instantly. So gouache would be super hard
I
to
see.
do on site for me. Um, and I was just fascinated with everything about, again, this patina of age. These are trucks that a man named Rakowski brought from Long Island. His father was a Polish potato farmer, and they're 1930s. He had them in his backyard, and you'll see this mound of dirt over here, and that's the beginning of a construction of a shopping mall. Um, these are no longer there. His farm is no longer there. So I felt like I was really sort of catching this cusp of time that was sort of crashing away. But I love them. They look like sort of like samurai warriors that have been put out, put out to pasture. Um, they just had such character. And
I
again, I think that's what I was drawn to in these farm landscapes. Whoopsie, was the character of everything about them, their age, their sense of um, rust and their color and also the style. The style of the 30s, the style of the 40s in terms of making automobiles and trucks. So then we ended up moving, and we came up to the Hudson River Valley from 20 years in Delaware at this boarding school. And I felt like I needed a metaphor, I needed a symbol, I needed an image to, again, vision or revision, envision how it was that I was feeling both spiritually and physically. And the house became, and again, I'm doing a lot of sketching and writing. The house popped up as a possible subject for exploration. And I think if you scratch the surface of much writing about the house and much like contemporary psychology, the house is really a representation of the body, and the body is a dwelling for the soul, for the spirit. And I had a hard time transitioning from teaching to non-teaching and retiring. And so I started to make these paintings of the house as a representation of my own sense of where I was again in the trajectory of my life. And one of the influences were these Indian miniature paintings, which I've always dearly loved because of their patterns, because of the color, because of the subject matter. The one on the left is Radha, who's Krishna's lover, on her way to meet her lover. And you can just see again, everything is built from pattern, and the color is is joyous and beautiful. And we can see here Radha and Krishna sort of traversing through a night sky where it's raining. And there's just a sense of life and animation of this divine couple. And Ragamala paintings were initially tone poems in the 17th century, flute, drum, and then they started adding stories. And then painters came and started to illustrate the stories. But music was always behind everything. And I think music sort of inspired the patterns of the decoration, the color, etc. And I've collected, thanks to my dear wife, who's a ceramicist, who had a lot of these, and I stole them and have sort of augmented my collection. These are all wood blocks, and they would be used. They would be covered with an ink or some kind of a paint and pressed onto fabric, right? Whether it was a sari or whether it was a scarf, whatever, and creating a pattern. So I've got probably about 50 or 60 of these, and they're lovely. They're beautiful things to look at, and I've started to use them to create these textures and an ornamentation of the interiors of these houses. So, and I'm a Libra, so I really, and not just that, but I think that the effort to make opposites know about each other is a deep sort of spiritual understanding about how the world works. Whether you look at the yin and the yang, or you know, you just understand that opposites make the world go round, and the combination of opposites is really the unification of opposites is in many spiritual practices the goal for a unified sense of being, for attaining closeness to whatever you want to call the absolute. And the deterioration of these houses and the beauty of this ornamentation struck me as a really great metaphor for how I felt. Again, everything I do is a self-portrait. I can't help it. I'm an egotist. I can't get beyond that. I am my template. Laura von Rosk said at the opening a really beautiful thing that was kind of like just hit me in the head like a big fish. She said, you know, John, your vulnerabilities are your greatest strengths. And it just like was amazing, because by being open to what is in process, and also being in love with beauty, you know, it creates a journey. We're on a journey. So I did a number of these paintings that combined sort of these structures that are in need of restoration with these bright incandescent kind of patterns that spoke about, you know, the spirit that lay within, like the structure. And I had fun with them. You know, they seemed like personalities to me. And I liked the fact that that they were called rag houses, again after the Ragamala paintings, because a rag is also, you know, something that you would throw away, and yet it's also a spiritual testament. I love that. Again, the unification of opposites. And then I decided I needed to go in and see what these places looked inside, and up the game, and wonder if I could create a sense of light in the interior and not just have it be the sort of this open like dollhouse facade. Uh, and I was amazed at how I could create a sense of light. And so I took a lot of interiors, and I based them on black and white photographs that I found on the internet and that I collaged and combined, and then used the wood blocks to create these sort of ornamented, light-filled, pulsating interiors that were now populated. You know, now it now had a real self. It wasn't just the building that was self. There was a self there, and my dog Max was always sleeping nearby, and so Max becomes this constant companion there. And what he represents for me is this sense of home and belonging, and a sense of home and belonging in a place that's falling apart, and yet has obviously had a storied past. Again, spoke to my sense of, um, what seemed true. I also started to really love the whole idea of printing and not just painting with a brush. And so this one, which is called Room with a polychromatic, with the polychromatic Virgin, which is this statue right here. I started gathering ferns outside the house, painting them, and then pressing them onto the canvas, as well as the patterns here, which are from the wood blocks. And I started to really love that combination. And the painting started to have more of a narrative quality. And you can see outside the door here, there's a person in a hat with a watering can. And so these people are beginning to lay claim to the destitution that is in the interior and beginning to sort of restore it. And I felt that emotionally, I was beginning to find that the way to do that for myself. Max, once again. And I love the whole patterning versus non-patterning. And obviously, Matisse was a huge example for that for me. Um, and and it began to be pretty personal. Like, I don't know who this girl is, but she reminds me both of myself and maybe of my sister and maybe of my daughter. And this is a picture of my mother at the age of 14 in Bronxville, um, back in the 40s. And it just seemed like the relationship between them was just like palpable. So I felt like the narratives were beginning to be not just these exercises, but more intimate kind of created spaces. And we all know, Vermeer and Van Eyck, and the notion of the icon of the woman by the window by herself reading something, and it's generally a letter from, her husband or her lover who's far away with the Dutch East India Company somewhere. Um, but I love the intimacy that at least one figure brings, especially when it's accompanied by a dog, and this quality of light spilling into the room. So the narrative is implied, and I can't tell you what the narrative is. It's really open. And I like the fact that it's open. I'm not trying to, I'm setting a stage for a sense of reflection and slightly quieter being than what had passed before. Uh, the advantage of using those woodblock prints is really amazing. I mean, the 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 detail that you can get with it, I loved in contrast to that which is not detailed. The outside the window or the door, the hairs on the dog, whatever it is. I love that combination of the two, and still you had that. I felt like it propelled the psychological narrative, that was happening with this young woman sort of looking out to these crashing waves, um, and her animals being, you know, pretty nonplussed by the whole thing. So I like the layers, and the process of painting is really about layering, as is the self-reflection and the beginning, the building of the psychology of the picture. Um, Max is the stalwart in these paintings, but we had a stray cat, a feral cat, sort of adopt us. And my wife always jokes that as soon as one of the animals is painted in a painting by me, they're part of the family. So we call I don't even know what we call this cat, Pussins maybe, um, but she became part of the family. But again, it's this narrative of a woman in a space involved in some kind of reflective activity. And I love making these paintings. I really did. And then all of a sudden, this guy dropped out of the sky. I'm not sure where he came from. I had reached a point where whoopsie, where I could no longer make these interiors that were full of pregnant possibility. You know, it's like, what are they reading? What are they thinking? What are they going to do? What have they done? And all of a sudden, this painting of Icarus happened, and I realized that I needed to tell a story. I couldn't just make a painting about like a narrative in which a story was being read, but I felt like I needed a story that I could tell that would be meaningful to me in terms of my own growth, you know, my own sort of hero's journey, if you will, if you'll indulge me in that. Um, and the story of Icarus, as you all know, his father Daedalus made wings and affixed them to the back of his son Icarus and himself in order to leave the labyrinth um, of King Minos in Crete. And so they flew, and offhandedly, Daedalus said to his son, don't fly too close to the sun, by the way, buddy, because your wings will melt, your wax will melt, and you'll have some problems. Um, and that's where the myth ends for Icarus, because of course, as a dumb 14-year-old, he flies too close to the sun. He can't help himself, and he plunges into the sea and perishes. And I thought, kind of looking at my own self and my own sort of messy youth, that the dude needs another chance. I need to give him another chance. And here's the other act of painting as vision. I can, in my imagination, create a new story. And in fact, those myths, if you look at many different iterations of those myths, they're all different because they're being met by the imagination of a given person at a given point in time, and they're taking what they need from it. So for me, what I needed from Icarus was for him to have a second chance, because I needed my third and my fourth and my fifth and my sixth second chance. And so this next series are all chronologically made, and they tell the story of Icarus um, turning it all around. This is the second one where Icarus, there's the serenade where he is encountered by the women of music and poetry, and they begin to lull him from this sleep of death that he has plunged into. So this is the serenade and the waking of the boy from this bad dream. This is the third one where Icarus, having been woken, wakes in the garden of the Lady of the Beasts. And you'll see that this is a 4-foot painting. I'm still very much interested in printing. So the polka dots on Icarus's pants are made with a wine cork. Um, and the Lady of the Beasts is an ancient figure. She's very much a maternal figure, a Mother Earth figure, kind of like a Demeter. Uh, and she meets him with her entourage, and represents an ally. And if you know anything about Jungian psychology, Jung talks about every man has a female component inside him called the anima, and every woman has the corresponding male component, which is the animus. And so I sort of think of this as the other half of the male Icarus. Um, and she comes to meet him, and she's a falconer. She's in her garden again with her minions. And just as an aside, this is Max. Max once again gets into the picture. This is my daughter's dog, June, and this is Eeyore down here on the bottom right, because he's really not sure if this is all going to work out. And the lady sets Icarus up with her hawks and her eagles, and they give Icarus the flying lesson. And you can see his wings seem made of pretty dubious stuff. Will those actually support him? Will he learn? Who knows? But he's got to take a leap. And so this is about his moment of doubt taken to the extreme, where he's got to decide whether or not to jump, and trust that he will learn, trust that he can learn. And the next two are really sort of the denouement of this Icarus, this turnaround of the Icarus story. This one is this one's called Rag with the Doubting Moon, because Icarus isn't quite connected to his lover. He's still looking down at what is a possible distraction, but at the same time, you know, the feeling of it is uplifting, no pun intended. And what follows is then the ascension, where the two of them have found, the two opposites have found one another. There's this cosmic egg in the back, courtesy of the Hubble telescope. You know, those images are just so amazing. So it's about it's about this envisioning a union of opposites, and this transcendence over the claims of time, which in Icarus's story were, you know, they tried to cash in too early, you know, when he was 14. So this is my retelling of the myth, and my sense of hope for myself and us, you know, as we go forward. But that, my friends, is it?
This is such an engaging show. Um, Everyone who has come, including some of the people who were here last evening, say, I'm going to come back. I have to keep looking. And it's true. I'm where I'm sitting in my office right now. The exhibition has continued out into this area, and I am looking at one above me. Well, I'm not looking at that one right now, but there are three to the sides. I can't tell you how engaging they are. And that all comes from so many of the things you said, and the things that Laura said about the vulnerability, the slightly off balance of the rag house imagery. Um, it is truly remarkable and quite brilliant. And for those who have not seen the show yet, who are with us tonight, uh, please make your way to the courthouse gallery. I also try to make it known that, yes, we have our gallery hours, Wednesday through Friday, 12 to 5, and Saturday, 12 to 4. But I am here more than that. And if you have a time that would work out better for you to see the show, please just call the office and we'll make that happen. We also, and
But I'd welcome any questions from
yes,
folks
let's open it up to any questions.
or comments. Laura, you'll have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. John, that was so awesome. Great. I mean, I've known you for a while, so I know some of this history, but that was a great compilation of all the crazy life stuff, right? So fantastic. Family, crazy, life, painting, whatever, trying to figure it all out. And I encourage everybody to visit your website, and there's a great catalog that you've got in the gallery, which is fantastic. But when you were talking, I never made this connection before, and I pulled it out of my bookshelf. Joan
I
Brown?
don't know. I don't. I
Oh my
don't.
God. Oh my God. So life, dogs, right? Life, dogs, right?
Okay.
Life, dogs, right? But
Okay.
Joan Brown, like I think she passed in the early 80s. But you know, she's great. So I'm just gonna hold it
I
up.
have to look at her. I haven't looked at
Yeah,
her.
she's so good. And I just thought, oh my God, you're like brother and sister at painting people.
That's
Because
hilarious.
also got this aspect in her search through her painting, like the Persian miniatures, Indian miniatures that you're looking
Yep.
at. She traveled to India. She was looking at this stuff, and she's kind of coming out of the abstract expressionist movement and all, you know. She's actually from the West Coast, but
Yep.
it's like I think you actually do know her,
I
but
do. She's a familiar name.
yeah,
Her
like
images are just not coming to mind.
yeah, no one really talks about her much, but she's kind of this fabulous painter because we're all like in the East Coast and we talk about New York artists, but she's a West Coast artist.
Yep.
But it's that similar path of examining her family life and her relationships with her family, and also she's got her dogs that are buddies. Like that's why she's painting them, and it's a lot like Max in the studio and
Yeah.
June in the studio, and I just thought I was like but she is just like you're examining the miniatures and you're thinking about the Icarus, like you're drawing from other cultural times and
Yep.
periods in history. She does that too, and they're very different than your paintings. But I just
I'll
wanted,
have to look at her again.
yeah, I think you know her. You just like I'm pulling out things that you probably, but I
So,
think
so sort of the David Park,
yeah,
Elmer
yep,
Bischoff.
yep. I think she studied with Elmer Bischoff,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
David Park. Yep, she's that San Francisco Bay Area stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, love those painters.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
That was so much fun though. I mean, I love how you lead into like, oh my God, I'm a father. And then
Right.
the psychological chapters of your life. It's just
Yeah. I guess maybe it's being Catholic. I'm just confessional, right? I'm
It's a
stuck
good
in the
thing.
I'm stuck in the confessional.
I thank you, God. That's good.
Right.
It's all good. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate
But
it.
isn't that what I mean, confessional is, it's not just, I mean, I hear what you're saying because I was raised Catholic too, but, and I'm gonna shut up soon, but I do think that, that you are a painter that paints narratives. Sometimes the narrative is not clear and it's open to anybody because it's
Yep.
become a universal thing. But it is storytelling. And I tell you, I was working in the studio today and I was listening to Stanley Whitney,
Mm.
who is an abstract painter. I mean, it's like you can't be more removed from the narrative thing of what we all think of, but on a certain level, he's narrative.
Yeah.
So it's, it's just what painting is about. It's like where
And,
you are and what you're experiencing.
and it's what our imaginations are about. I mean, we can't help but look through ourselves as the ultimate frame of reference.
Right.
You know, we just
Yeah.
can't.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Laura. And thank you for the weekend that we had.
Yeah. And thanks for June for putting together all this stuff for you. And
Yes.
it's really great. Like arts project. Yeah.
Yeah.
That good segue into what's happening here on Sunday. Sunday, we have our Sunday Arts Hours from 1 to 4, and we will be experimenting with gouache, and we'll be looking at the patterns throughout. I'll, of course, be drawing from your good teaching to talk about your work using your words to the best of my ability. And yeah, engaging people with these some of the mysteries of the narratives, and then the wonderful use of myth and extension of myth, and how it's very personal, and yet, of course, these characters and these images are also universally understood. And as you mentioned, Laura, bringing in from other cultures things that are universally understood: youth, the folly of youth, home, the sense of home, a sense of waiting, the women by the window. Yeah, it's so rich, so rich. And so I'm hoping people will spread the word about Sunday, 1 to 4. It's drop in anytime between 1 and 4. It's for all ages, and it's those Sundays have proven to me that I too always learn from people who come to see the shows, as well as be able to share such beautiful work. Can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Any other questions before we go?
Well, thank you
I
all.
could I just make a comment?
Oh, yes, of course.
Sorry, this is an amphibian speaking.
I understand that.
I just wanted to, John, I just want to say how much I appreciate your scholarship wrapped around your artwork. It's such a refreshing thing to hear the raison d'etre of the various images that you've created, as opposed to leaving it up to my imagination and my interpretation. As a rationalist, I really need things like that, and I really appreciate the fact that you've done that. And I wish you were my neighbor, because I could learn so much from you. Damn it, you know, I think we have a house to sell.
Oh, oh. Well,
Don't let Laura know.
yeah, Tam, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
like,
that. I appreciate it. I think that's what made me a good teacher when I was a teacher, was that I have an intellectual curiosity that's as fired up as my aesthetic appetite. And I love when they come together. They do a dance, and I like to get jiggy with it.
And John, if you go down to the chat, you'll see that there are a couple of comments from a Brooke. So I guess it's Peter Brook. So
We don't
looks
know
like
that
maybe-
Peter Brook, it could be somebody else.
or it could be a different Brooke,
Yeah.
but they're saying all ages. And so it looks like maybe they'll be there on Sunday.
Well, that will be great. Yeah, the hand
Actually,
is up. I think there's a question.
I think I know who that Brooke is, and she has
Oh,
her
okay.
hand up. And also, Louise has her hand up as well.
Yep. So Brooke, go ahead and ask your question, and we'll come back to Louise.
No, he just says, you can look at it, John. He
Oh, but
just
Brooke-
says, such bright and hopeful colors on a dark
Oh.
story, or darker.
Okay, I finally got myself off of mute.
Yeah, I think Brooke has her hand up because she's trying to ask a question. So
Yeah.
I
Oh,
got
well-
you, Elizabeth, but I think Brooke was actually she raised her hand a couple of times, so I think she's trying to ask a question.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yes.
can hear you. We can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you.
It took a really long time to find the unmute button. I
That's
just didn't know we were gonna get to my chat comment. It's Brooke with him. We met at the opening Saturday. I call on Adams for Acre Farms. Maybe you
Yep.
remember me from that.
You're the seed lady.
I'm the seed lady, yep, and the pot queen. No, I just really, Icarus is not a happy tale. I mean, you made it into a happy tale of a second chance, and the colors just put a whole other spin on the whole tale. Just, it doesn't have to be all this dark stuff. It's renewal and like you painted it. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'm glad that he visited when he did.
When you say he visited, did you think of this? Does it come to you? And
I don't know where he came from.
that's amazing. That's awesome.
No, it is amazing. I mean, I write my dreams down every night or every day and keep a record of them.
Cool.
And so I'm open to whatever happens in terms of the imagination and what we'll call, I guess, the unconscious. But Icarus showed up and demanded that I spend some time, and it was amazing.
Love the colors. The colors are more than half the story for me.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Louise,
Yes.
hello.
Hi there. I don't know. I don't have the right button.
No, you're right. No,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Just go ahead.
Okay. Just quickly, your honesty and your truthfulness about talking about your process is so unusual, and thank you for that, because it's difficult. It's difficult for many artists to put it in words, and you have this wonderful ability. It just slides right off you into your work, which makes your work so accessible. However, you use the human figure a lot to help tell the story. And your development and show the human figure is spectacular. Your foreshortening, your detail, your deep shadows, and your animation is really pulls the whole thing together. How do you do it? Do you have a model? Do you use the internet? How do you get these wonderful positions, and are you able to render them in a realistic way?
Well, thank you so much for that. That means the world to me because I've always struggled with the figure. I've been part of a drawing group for the last couple of years. We meet every Monday, and we draw from the model.
Yeah.
So that has been a great exercise. I also hire models that come in.
Oh,
And I also, my son, most of the male figures in the Icarus are actually my 28-year-old son.
oh, perfect.
And I don't have to pay him. I just feed him dinner. And he lets, I generally don't want to prey on his time too much. So I just take photographs of him
Yeah,
and then work from the photographs, but he's there if I need to look at something again.
Well-
So it's a number of different things. I mean, the figure is daunting,
yeah.
and I try not to underestimate it. I really try to work hard at understanding what it is that I'm trying to do.
Well, they carry the theme beautifully, and I appreciate it, and keep doing it the way you're doing it, because it's perfect.
Well, you're so sweet. I thank you so much. That means a lot.
And I second the comment about your ability to talk about your work. You are an amazing teacher, and that shows through. And it certainly benefits us all who have been honored to meet you and hear you speak about your work.
Well, thank you, June. I appreciate it. I again love the opportunity of having my work there, and this has been fun.
Well, thank you again, everybody who has come with us tonight, and please come and see the show several times. It will reach out. Something new will reach out to you every time you visit. So
Great.
with that,
Well,
if there's no
adieu.
other questions?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Great. Adieu. No, adieu, adieu, adieu.
All right. Well, thank you all, and good night.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
John. Thanks, John.
Oh,
Great job.
Thank
Yep.
you.
thank you, Laura.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sam.
Awesome work.
Thank you, John Boy. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Yeah, right. We could, you know what we should do? Like, just like the rail does it, we should all say, good night, everybody.
You
Yeah.
do, right.
All the family and all that.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
bye. Thank you. Great job.
Adios, amoeba.
Hope I see you all soon.
Bye.